Hi, my name is Amy Sperline. This is my final reflection in Foundations in Christian Spirituality. I wanted to start by saying that the reason I wanted to do this by video is primarily because I'm processing so much of the information. I have appreciated this class so much, and there's a lot that I want to go back and revisit, a lot that I intend to incorporate into my life today, and a lot that I can see useful in my life in ministry. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. So to begin with, what is Christian spirituality? Christian spirituality is a lived relationship with God, and it comes to life in the ways that we practice it. And what I have learned more about is that is not always between me and God, but also between me and community. And I appreciate, more today than I did before, spirituality and what it means, not only for me as an individual, but me as a Christian. And this class has really opened my mind to that concept, that it can be systematic, that there can be some formulation to it. I came into this class feeling like spirituality is in here. Like how can I relate in here into a textbook? But I wasn't taking into account the whole history and thought and tradition of Christianity. And that has sort of been very eye-opening for me. So I loved talking about mysticism, because that's an area that I haven't done much study at all, if any. I'm familiar with it, but so within this realm of spirituality, you have mysticism, and that is the consciousness of God's immediate presence, right? And I have had one experience myself when I was called to ministry, and that was a very moving experience. Moving that's not even a big enough word for it, but it was an experience that I won't ever forget, and I have trouble explaining. I do have a hard time with people who claim these things happen all the time. I don't know. I haven't experienced that. I look forward to a day when maybe I can sit down with someone, a mystic, who has had multiple experiences and can share them with me and help me understand what that looks like. But yeah. Moving on to the foundations of Christian spirituality. They are that it is grounded in Christian revelation. And I wrote down a quote from the book. Page 28 says, "While we respect the mystery of God, aware that all our theologizings are meager attempts to comprehend the incomprehensible, we must affirm at the same time that authentic Christian relationship with God grows in dialogue with the fundamental texts and truths of the Christian faith." And I think that I came into this class with the first part of that in mind, that we are aware that all our theologizings are meager attempts to comprehend the incomprehensible. And I just let that be enough. That was enough for me. Just put it all on the mystery of God, the fact that we can't comprehend God in that way as human beings. But what this class opened me up to was the second part of that. We must affirm at the same time that authentic Christian relationship with God grows in dialogue with the fundamental texts and truths of the Christian faith. And I think that's very pivotal for me, that my spirituality has been changed with some of the ideas in this book. I love this book. I'm freshman enough that I'm not seeing some of the places where other students are critiquing it, because I'm just absorbing it. And there's some things that I definitely don't agree with, but the main concepts and the concepts that you have covered in your lectures, I'm just absorbing those wholeheartedly because it's such valuable information. And I was skeptical, but now I'm not. Now I know that even on something as personal and interpersonal as spirituality, that we can find some structure and some system and some framework within what has been done and what has happened in history. Um, so then we move on to the reality of the spiritual world, how God relates to us, and the human experience. God is ever present in our human experience, and so the way that I kind of relate this is in the what I was taught about the cross, that the center is God relating to us, and then us relating to our community. And so there's God, us to community. Um, and I love that image, and I think that it's definitely an image that I will keep in mind when thinking about the foundations of Christian spirituality, because it's how God relates to us and how He is present in our human experience. Um, and there's that relationship with God there too, that real connection between God and human. And God connects to me, and then He also connects to everyone I deal with. So I could be talking to an atheist, sharing my experience, strength, and hope, and they could feel the presence of God there, even though they might not recognize it or acknowledge it. It's there, and that's how the Holy Spirit moves through us and within us and around us and under and over. And I like to think of the Holy Spirit as the wind or wind-like. Um, and then finally, the foundation of God being a relationship of love, that God's own being is based in love, and that's what He wants for us. I firmly believe that we are on this planet to learn how to love, that it's all about relationship and connection, and that we are here to learn how to love. And so the concept of God as love is beautiful to me. In fact, I want to start capitalizing every word love that I write, because God is present in all things, and so should love be. Okay, moving on to what is prayer. For me, coming into this class, prayer, I've learned that prayer is the talking to God, meditation is the listening to God, and I still feel the same. I have a idea of constant prayer in my life. I feel like my heart is always open to a conversation with God. However, am I always listening? Maybe not so much. So I'm really finding meditation to be a useful tool in the listening. I think I'm practiced in prayer, but not so much in meditation and in that listening. This morning I tried a new practice. I'm dealing with some control issues, and so I turned on a Christian meditation, and it was a 10-minute prayer about control with breathing and quiet. And it's something that I'm definitely going to be utilizing again. So I'm glad to have had this opportunity to open my mind to other areas for spiritual practice. Spiritual practice includes personal and communal or corporate. The practices that I participate in at church are equally as important to me. And I didn't know that before COVID-19, but I do now. I miss those people horribly. And I miss the communion. I miss fellowship. I miss all of it. They're a part of my spiritual life, and my spiritual life is lacking right now because I'm not able to be with them. So, also prayer can include imagery, song, dance, art. Venting can be a sort of prayer, just that crying out, conversation, and ultimately caring. Caring for another human being is passing along a prayer of thanksgiving, a prayer of gratitude. And And discipleship is how I carry my spirituality into the world. How am I a reflection of God's love is basically what it boils down to for me. And that's becoming more important now that I'm in seminary and really looking at the areas of my life that may not appear to be paralleled with, a Christian mindset. And they may not be paralleled. They may be areas, character defects, and whatnot that I need to work on. And I'm not afraid to do that. I think that's an important part. What are spiritual practices? They are the ways in which we open ourselves to the connection. And so if we open ourselves through art or through song or through meditation and we open that up to God for that spiritual connection, and then we open it up with others. And so the spiritual connection is both God and us and us in community. The models I looked at close at hand and at a distance models and found examples in my life of both. Close at hand, I am sponsoring 7 women and sharing in their experience of recovery and finding spirituality with their higher power. I am fully participating in that experience. Same with attendance at church. I fully participate in that experience. I serve others. I read. I do these things to fully immerse myself in the activity and the experience that others are having. I do a Bible study where I meet with another female and we do reflection and prayer on scriptures. So we're taking something from history and reflecting and praying on it and thinking about how we can translate that into our daily lives today. And I now know that, more about how important that historical piece is. And then at a distance, learning, educating myself about the history of the church and not only the history of the church, but going beyond that to the history of Christianity, contemplative prayer, and using interpretations from the history to guide my own thoughts and behaviors today. While I might have very little in common with a Christian woman in, 1500, we also have a lot of similarities. And so what can she teach me about how to live my life today? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. I'm just saying. Identifying the agents in the Christian spiritual formation, the Holy Spirit. I'm going to reiterate that I have not probably considered the Holy Spirit by name enough. I recognize the triune God. I fully believe, but I don't acknowledge the Holy Spirit by name and independent of the unit, which is tricky. I'm learning more about how tricky, but and then myself, and then human agents. Narcotics Anonymous. We meet in groups that group becomes an agent of healing for anyone who enters it. The congregation at church, it becomes an agent of God's message. And myself, I am always an agent, and I try to see myself that way. The identifying factors, motive, this fly is bugging me, motive, intent, commitment, and initiation with the Holy Spirit. So motive, what do I want? What do I want? Or what brought me here? Intent, what do I want to get out of it? Commitment, how much am I willing to do? And initiation with the Holy Spirit, how open am I willing to be? How accepting am I willing to be? How much am I willing to surrender? And the one area of trouble that I had was on aims, and I couldn't really wrap my head around holiness or perfection. The one that I could was increase, and I think that's where a lot of people can identify, is an increase. I want an increased connection of love with God. I want an increased connection of love with my neighbor. I want an increased understanding of who my neighbor is. I want an increased spirituality. I want an increased openness, acceptance. And so that one I could identify with. Just the word alone, increase, is okay with me. The others were difficult. I really enjoyed the experiences that I had practicing new spiritual practices. And we'll continue to try those. Like I said, I did a new meditation this morning. I still want to get back to the artistic one. I've done a little journaling about my resentments and fears about trying art again, and I think I might be ready to do that. I've really enjoyed this class very much, and it has really opened my eyes to. I'm reiterating, but opened my eyes to the fact that we can find structure and a format, a basis for which to kind of build on personal spirituality, and eventually helping others to do that for themselves. So my mind is open, and I'm processing, and thank you very much for this class and for your expertise. It has meant a lot to me, and I will carry it into my work. Thank you.